local family is demanding justice. Robbie Middleton's family says a young neighbor named Donald Collins doused Robbie with gasoline and set him on fire 13 years ago. Collins was never charged. Now the Middletons are moving forward with a civil lawsuit.
Donald Collins was never criminally prosecuted for what happened to Robbie Middleton. That's why Middleton's family is pursuing the case in civil court. They say it's not money they seek, but justice.
Before we begin, please keep in mind that the following story may contain disturbing or unsettling content. Reader discretion is advised. The incidents in this twisted case transpire in the enchanting town of Splendor, Texas, on the auspicious date of June 28, 1998. Robbie Middleton, a buoyant and spirited young American kid who derived immense pleasure from attending school and cherishing the company of his friends, greeted this day with an exuberant zest that marked the joyous occasion of Robbie's 8th birthday. One of the things Robbie bought with him was a tent that his mother had given him for his birthday. It was undoubtedly one of the happiest days of his life, according to his mother, who had assisted him in setting up the tent. He thoroughly enjoyed commemorating his birthdays, and in anticipation of an upcoming sleepover, a tent was procured and erected in the backyard. Robbie was filled with excitement as he eagerly prepared to showcase his latest acquisitions to his friends. Utilizing a portion of his birthday funds, he had purchased a selection of pyrotechnics. With the intention of embarking on a leisurely stroll through the serene woods adjacent to his residence, Robbie planned to make his way towards his friends' neighborhoods. True to his plan, Robbie bid his mother farewell and set off on his journey. Unbeknownst to him, however, an unknown individual had been surreptitiously observing his movements from the concealment of the woods. What should have been a day of joy and camaraderie quickly turned into a harrowing experience as an assailant suddenly emerged, launching an unexpected and violent attack upon Robbie. This person seized Robbie and applied gasoline to his eyes. Subsequently, they securely bound him to a tree using a rope. They proceeded to drench him in gasoline, igniting him until the flames engulfed him entirely. Eventually, as the fire ravaged the rope that confined him to the tree, he managed to free himself and escape. Despite being completely engulfed in flames and experiencing temporary blindness, he managed to navigate his way back to his residence. Upon reaching the vicinity of his home, he collapsed. Concerned neighbors soon found Robbie lying on the ground, his body covered in hanging skin, blisters, and burns. Robbie's mother was immediately notified of his condition, as he had suffered such extensive burns that he was hardly recognizable. When he was admitted to the hospital, the intense fire had ravaged his body for an extensive duration, resulting in third-degree burns encompassing approximately 99% of his entire physique. Remarkably, only the palms of his hands and the bottom of his feet remained unharmed.
13 years of a living hell. The little boy was burnt beyond recognition, over 99% of his body. Very few people in the history of the world have ever survived those burns.
The little boy was Robbie Middleton, who was set on fire in the woods near his Splendora home back in 1998.
Robbie's medical team earnestly cautioned his parents to prepare themselves for a grim outcome. It is widely acknowledged that individuals who endure third-degree burns across a substantial area of their body generally face limited prospects for long-term survival. After the distressing incident, he successfully recognized the individual responsible. The individual in question was identified as Donald Collins, a male adolescent. Given his proximity to the Middleton family, Collins, a 13-year-old, showed little surprise upon hearing the accusation. It was worth noting that Collins had already acquired a record as a sex offender at the tender age of 13. Colleen Middleton, Robbie's mother, had taken great care to warn her son about maintaining a safe distance from Collins. She advised him to promptly return home if he found himself alone and spotted the individual. When Collins was interrogated by the authorities regarding the brutal assault on the young boy, he vehemently denied the accusations. There were no additional eyewitnesses present during the incident. Apart from Robbie, there was no concrete evidence connecting Collins to the crime. Collins evaded prosecution for the assault, as he was apprehended, confined in juvenile detention for several months, and subsequently released. Robbie, afflicted by his injuries, entered a disoriented state and started attributing his burns to various factors, even going so far as to implicate his grandmother scalding coffee. The authorities encountered challenges in conclusively establishing Robbie's culpability for his own injuries, lacking irrefutable evidence. Furthermore, they faced difficulty in determining a plausible motive behind his supposed involvement in this abhorrent act. Robbie did manage to survive the attack. However, he suffered severe injuries, including the loss of his eyelids and third-degree burns covering his entire body. The fire also inflicted significant damage to his organs, which means his recovery process will be extensive. Robbie's mother vividly recalls how he endured months of constant crying following the incident. Robbie demonstrates unwavering determination in his pursuit to restore a semblance of normalcy.
It was his 8th birthday. From the beginning, Middleton blamed neighbor Dan Collins, who was 13 at the time.
It's just hard to relive it all over again, you know. It's just real hard for us.
Even in the face of overwhelming challenges. He underwent nearly 200 surgeries over the span of the subsequent decade as a result of the extensive burns. Alongside requiring rigorous physical therapy, the corrosive substance completely eroded his adipose tissue, impairing his musculature and obliterated his dermis. Furthermore, he experienced complete vision loss in one eye, and the significant scarring across his physique greatly restricted his mobility. Robbie was known for his frequent use of the saying, "Leave the past behind and embrace the future." He possessed no desire to dwell on his unfortunate circumstances, and instead chose to focus on the present and future. His family often praised him for his ability to uplift and maintain a positive attitude, even in the face of adversity. Despite experiencing a terrible incident in the past, Robbie's remarkable optimistic personality remained intact, constantly looking ahead towards what lies ahead. Collins, who was 16 years old at the time, was convicted and incarcerated in 2001 on charges of sexually assaulting an 8-year-old child. Additionally, he was sentenced for failing to comply with the requirement of registering on a sexual offenders registry. After serving his sentence, Collins was released from prison on September 5, 2011. Robbie's physical condition began to deteriorate a decade following the assault. Having endured the pain of burns for almost 13 years and spending a significant portion of his existence confined to hospital walls, Robbie received the devastating news of being diagnosed with an uncommon type of skin cancer at the age of 20. This unfortunate development could be attributed to the extensive burns he sustained and the numerous skin grafts he underwent, rendering him more susceptible to the disease. Tragically, on April 29, 2011, a mere few weeks before reaching the age of 21, Robbie's life came to an end.
I want to bring in his mother, Robbie Middleton, is in St. Louis, and her attorney, Craig Seco, is in San Antonio. And Colleen, I just want to begin with you. Our condolences to you. I know this is your son's death is very recent. And from what I've been told, this is the first time here that you have heard that part of your son's deposition describing this alleged sex abuse. Listening to it as a mother, how did the words sit with you?
It's just devastating. I can't believe, all that they did to him, and then they turned around and did that also. It's very upsetting.
What kind of child was Robert? I know you call him Robbie. A good kid, sensitive child?
He was a very good kid. He was happy-go-lucky. He was very considerate towards other people. He loved animals, just like everybody else's child, I suppose.
We're looking at some of these pictures, and we're going to click through some of these that you shared, but I do want to warn our viewers, some of them, they're tough to look at. I know Robbie endured, I read the deposition, some 200 surgeries, and as we'll see here in a moment, I mean, his life clearly physically drastically changed, but how was it moving forward, Colleen, after he was 8? Here he is, I guess, at Christmas time. How did everything change for you?
Everything changed. I had to grieve for the child that he was, for what could have been, and I grieved for it for a long time. But then eventually Robert became the same happy-go-lucky child, and life was good. Life was livable again.
It was livable, but you said you lost, in a sense, normalcy, your own son, as you knew.
The U.S. courts have officially classified Robbie's death as a homicide. In a 27-minute video recorded by Robbie himself on his deathbed, which was captured 17 days before his passing, he disclosed a distressing incident that took place 2 weeks prior to the tragic attack. According to Robbie, Collins had forcefully assaulted him in the same woods where he would later be set on fire. The motive behind this horrifying act was eventually uncovered over a decade later, when it was revealed that Collins had intentionally set Robbie ablaze, aiming to eliminate him and prevent him from ever revealing the truth about his actions to anyone. Another terrifying confession from Robbie was that while he was burning, he heard an adult's voice speaking to Collins. After Robbie died, he was arrested and charged as an adult for murder. During the trial, Robbie Middleton revealed that during Robbie's final months, he had been concerned that he would burn in hell for the rest of eternity. Gordon Prang, who had known Robbie during his convalescence, claimed that Robbie was concerned about going to hell. Gordon Prang experienced burn injuries in 1987 as a result of an incident. Robbie had informed Gordon that an individual had forcefully entered his life. Gordon asserted that while he had no control over the occurrence, he held the belief that engaging in premarital intercourse was morally incorrect, which led to his fear of eternal damnation. It is distressing to consider the extent of Robbie's suffering, which went beyond the physical burns he endured. Moreover, he carried an undeserved burden of shame, preventing him from disclosing the complete truth to the authorities or his parents.
Tonight, 13 years after someone set an 8-year-old boy on fire, we may finally know why. Robbie Middleton's story is heartbreaking. He died last month from complications connected to his burns. Now, after all these years, reporter Sherman Chow has learned prosecutors could finally charge someone in this case.
I know the pain is gone. And
Colleen Middleton's son took 13 years to die from the devastating burns he received after being set on fire.
He was dying in his hospital bed, and we asked him if he wanted to continue this fight, and he told us he did.
Craig Seco is the family's attorney who took Robbie's sworn video deposition. It's hard to understand, but Robbie repeated what he's always said.
Trying to grab it on my back and turn me around and do the gas in my face.
His family filed a civil suit against Don Collins, then a 13-year-old neighbor. But what could motivate such a horrific attack? Tonight, for the first time, we are hearing this stunning answer.
Robbie explained in his deposition that Donald Collins had sexually assaulted him approximately 2 weeks before the fire in the very location where Robbie was set on fire.
Robbie was too embarrassed to tell his mother, but days before his death, Robbie spoke, and for the record.
He just tore my clothes down and started raping me.
I asked if he'd ever done it before.
He used to do this to one of his cousins all the time.
Shocking revelations, a key question no one had apparently asked him before now.
And all the explained motives that I'd heard before didn't make sense to me.
What has never made sense to the Middletons?
He was never charged, and they told us there was never enough evidence.
Consistent with this recent email from the Montgomery County Attorney's Office. Too many contradictions, not prosecutable. But Robbie's parents say prosecutors never bothered to talk to their son. Now, Robbie is dead from his injuries.
Reasonable that then perhaps a murder investigation could be opened?
We certainly hope there is one going to be opened.
In 1998, Collins was taken into custody but then released. Today, Don Collins is 26 years old and serving time for failure to register as a sex offender. The Middletons are now ready to take on another battle.
Some of the bravest people I've ever met.
Robbie experienced an overwhelming sense of shame, embarrassment, and guilt in response to Collins' actions. After the incident occurred, the individual whom Collins had imposed himself upon stated that Collins had issued a threat to burn him if he ever disclosed the details to anyone. Multiple individuals stepped forward asserting that Collins had confessed to his involvement in the act of setting Robbie on fire. Additionally, a relative of Collins came forward, affirming that Collins had confided in them about both Rex and himself causing harm to Robbie. Robbie may have heard an adult voice, which could possibly be explained by Rex's relation as Collins' uncle. Rex, however, firmly refuted any allegations of involvement, and even the prosecutors themselves were not convinced of his connection to the crime. There is a strong possibility that an adult played a role in the incident, yet Collins refuses to disclose their identity. In 2015, Donald was convicted of the heinous crime of capital murder, a staggering 17 years after the brutal assault on Robbie. After a long and arduous pursuit of justice, the day of reckoning finally arrived. Donald was met with a sentencing that reflected the severity of his actions. He was handed a prison term of 40 years. Heather and Clinton, the two elder siblings of Robbie, fondly recall their brother's remarkable courage and resilience in the face of immense adversity and suffering, particularly considering his tender age. Despite being unable to realize his aspirations of pursuing a career as a wildlife rehabilitator and enjoying the freedom of driving, Robbie exhibited remarkable determination by speaking out and actively contributing to the successful prosecution and incarceration of a serial predator, ensuring that justice was served. Before we end this video, may I have your attention, please? We are gathered here today to pay our respect and honor the memory of Robbie Middleton. As a mark of our deep appreciation for their life and in recognition of our collective loss, we will be observing a 1-minute moment of silence. During this time, I kindly request that you join us in a moment of reflection, keeping your thoughts focused on the life and legacy of Robbie Middleton. I will now announce the beginning of the 1-minute silence. Please observe this silence as a sign of respect and remembrance. Thank you for your participation. Let us carry forward the memory of Robbie and the impact he had on others' lives. Thank you, and God bless you all.